Through the fire and the flames, we carry on. It's VGC, a video game podcast with me, Jordan Midler, Chris Scullion, and Pete Donaldson. This week, more AI nonsense, game could be stopping trade-ins, and more. But first, how are we doing, folks? Pete, tell me about your power supplies, because I hear that's all the rage these days.
It's all anyone's talking about. We've gone past talking about cathode ray tube televisions in the retro environment, the retro community, and we're basically just talking about inverted DC AC power, really. That's kind of what we're into. So
good. I listened to the last week's show while I was eating my breakfast one morning, and I was like, I swear when I sat down to start eating this, they were talking about power supplies, and now I'm finished and they're still talking about power supplies.
Peril, it's the most dangerous act you can get involved in the video game world. Like, there's no peril in turning on, I don't know, like a PlayStation 5, really.
Yeah.
You know, we don't even have red rings of death anymore. This is, life or death. You could be killing something that's 40 years old.
Yeah, I'd love to kill something that's 40 years old. Speaking of
me,
speaking of Chris, you really let the show get away for you last week, letting these idiots just talk. You get much to say for yourself?
I mean, I'll admit it was my dream show last week because we were talking about exactly what I wanted to talk about for once.
No Pokemon.
I don't give a
It's Pokemon freeze. Pokemons don't need step downs or steps ups, or maybe they do.
No,
I don't know.
I don't give a shit about, for example, AI art. So hopefully that doesn't come up this week. But like everything else, like when you're talking power converters, that's me in the zone.
Yeah.
I'm in my element.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, last week I was in the sunnier climes of Arlington, Texas, at the Smite 2, the Smite World Championships, in order to see Smite 2. It was a weird moment in the hotel the night before, because all the Smite players and all the fans were staying at the same hotel as the press. So me and a friend were very loudly having a conversation about Smite 2, and then realised, like, there's probably some people sitting here that don't know that Smite 2
is taking notes. Or the Smite Hawks are sitting listening.
Thankfully,
Smite heads.
It already leaked on Steam Russia, so they were pretty sure that it was going to happen. Look forward to our new podcast, Talking Smite. But yeah, it was good fun. Texas is strange. It is a profoundly anti-walking state. You can't go anywhere without a car, pretty much. Like, there's tiny little pavements and stuff like that, but there was a Walgreens or a 7-Eleven or something similar. You could see it from the hotel, but if you looked on Google Maps, it was like, this is a 20-minute walk, because you have to walk all the way around this highway. Like, there's absolutely no consideration for pedestrians. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed myself there. More on Smite 2 on the website. Have some interviews up, etc.
Do you remember when this is only a slight tangent? Do you remember when Texas, as in the band, collaborated with Method Man?
I thought you were going to say. Yes. I thought you were going to say, do you remember when Texas's band collaborated with Peter Kay, which is more mass speed than Method Man?
Oh, I don't remember that. One. That seemed to pass.
He was in a video, I think. Was that Texas? That might have been that. It was one of those terrible kind of mid-2000s non-music bands
Here we go. Here he is.
Pete probably played out every afternoon on Absolute Radio.
We never really flirted with Texas, but Spiteri I respect as a humorist. She's a very funny woman. But all I remember of Texas was that they were on TFI Friday with Chris Evans every single Friday, and that launched their career. But I don't know what was going on between Evans and Texas.
No, they are firmly affixed in the Scottish Hogmanay glitterati now. That
Nice.
if you watch the BBC programme, every Hogmanay is going to be Texas. It's going to be two guys called Phil and Ali who sit and play fiddles. And...
Ali Bain's retired.
Oh, is he?
It's all.
Is this like the Chaz and Dave kind of setup? Is this like the Chaz and Dave's?
Pretty much. Basically, like it's law that on Hogmanay in BBC Scotland, you have to get a couple of guys with fiddles go. Then they say stop. Time to count down from 10, and then they can do the countdown. You see fireworks outside Edinburgh Castle for 10 minutes, and then they go right back. For another 10.
Why have they fallen out? Have they sort of decided to sort of get involved?
Like Ali Bain's been doing it for like around 93 years.
Right.
So he's just retired now, and they've replaced it with like kind of more modern band called Skadoosh or something.
Right.
It's the same idea.
Him and Sting were losing all the legends. But yeah, that's
He's still alive, to be fair.
When did Las Vegas get their roses? When did Las Vegas get to play?
I know. I'm still waiting for Franz Ferdinand to get their comeuppance.
I'm obsessed with the fact that I reckon that Alex Kapranos is going to become like who's a bloke? Justin Hawkins is very popular on YouTube, obviously, and in my opinion, it's reignited the love people had for the darkness, latent love for the darkness, and it's reinvigorated their live product. But I reckon that Kapranos, I think Kapranos is fishing around for like a project like that. I think he's going to become beloved.
I'll never have love for the darkness. I appreciate the band and I appreciate Justin Hawkins, but I've said this before. The one year I went to Tea in the Park, it was meant to be David Bowie was the headline, and he pulled out with an injury. It was replaced with the darkness.
What an upgrade!
It's not like for like.
Was that the generation where people kept on throwing ice lollies at David Bowie? Though, do you remember he got an ice lolly in his eye? Someone hoyed a magnum at him, and it caught him right in the eye. And he's already got a damaged retina.
It was also the year. It was also the year I heard my favourite ever crowd shout at any concert. It was on the first day in the park, just when they opened the gates, so like just the dregs were coming in at the very start, while most of the queue was outside. The first act on the big stage was Big Brothers.
Oh yeah, taking over the show.
So as I came in, they were singing their one song. This is Big Bro, taking over the show. And after that song, and the crowds must be a couple of hundred because everyone's still outside coming in. He went, "This is a song from our second album." And someone in the crowd shouted, "That's presumptuous." And he was right. He was right to shout that.
Wonderful.
God rest
the big bro taking over the show. Story number 1. Square Enix confirms Foam Stars contains some AI generated art. Bad luck, Chris.
I'm out.
The Final Fantasy publisher's president recently said in a New Year's letter that it intended to, quote, aggressively in applying AI in its future game development. Square Enix had previously used AI for things like improving facial animations and camera angles in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. However, at a recent press event, VGC asked Foam Stars producer Kazuki Okatani if AI was used in any elements of the game, and he confirmed it had. While Okatani claimed that the vast majority of the game was built by hand, I think it was made by computers personally, but that's editorializing. It used Midjourney, a popular generative AI tool, to transform text prompts into visual art to create a small number of in-game icons. Quote, all of the core elements in Foam Stars, the core gameplay and the things that make the game enjoyable, those were made by hand. However, we did want to experiment with AI as well. In terms of the content, this makes up about 0.01% or even less. We dabbled in it, creating these icons in the game. Square Enix shot themselves and later clarified in a statement to VGC. AI was used in the creation of in-game album covers for music featured in Foam Stars soundtrack, as developers were always looking for new ways, for new technologies to see how they could assist in game development. So, in short, they used it for like tiny little JPEG thumbnails for the covers of their music in the game. This feels like such a small use that it is almost not worth the controversy of using it at all. Chris, what do you think about this?
It's a weird one, and you're going to have to forgive me if I'm kind of rambling a bit here because I'm also juggling an argument in the back about a review going up.
I thought you were making some Midjourney art there.
No, yeah, I was just going
to Chris Scullion body slamming onto the giant. Lovely. I
was asking ChatGPT what my opinion of this is. It's a weird one. Like he says, it's only small. I think he said it was small album art that's in the game, which doesn't excuse it, but it's just odd how willing they were to accept it within seconds. Andy was like, "Is this AI?" And like, yep. And like, they could have very easily got away with not saying anything at all if it's as small as they're making out.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone on a game like Foam Stars, which doesn't exactly have 20 million people queuing up around the block to play it, I think they could have gotten away with it. But the fact he just went, yeah, we're using AI, and now like, loads of people are saying, "Oh well," and it's also resulting in what I think is a kind of unnecessary reaction that people are saying, "Oh well, in that case, I will never play it." It's like you weren't going to play it anyway. Like, don't pretend this is the reason you weren't going to play Foam Stars, which by all accounts actually looks quite good, but feels like the sort of game that's doomed to be shut down in a year because it just doesn't get the audience.
Playing it, yeah.
Well, they're chucking it out on PS Plus, so that's
true. It's as good a chance as any.
Yeah,
but
it maybe had a good chance when I feel like at the start of 2024, people were like, "Oh, there's no games this year," and I'm currently playing my 6th game of 2024, and all 6 of them have been fucking shit hot bangers. So it might be 2023 Part 2. Pete, why would a company step on their own balls like this for something so small and insignificant?
I think I said in our predictions for the year, this is the year where I think the entire industry just pulls off the plaster when it comes to using generative AI art. I mean, generative makes it sound like it's made something, but very much is iterative, really, and iterative, really.
Iterative.
They've basically just put everything that exists in a tumble dryer and pulled it out. So I think generative is not really a word we really should be using. But I would say that I don't know why they used it on such a small thing. If you're going to use it, you may as well use it on like something a little bigger if you're going to be dealing with an almighty shitstorm. You got to remember that the video game industry, by and large, programming by its very nature is magpie-esque, I suppose. You are standing on the shoulders of 20, 30 years of algorithmic and kind of use case kind of thievery. You know what I mean? Like you are building, there's every single part of building a computer program is stealing things that you found on a GitHub elsewhere. And that's just the way that industry has already operated. So I understand why video game companies are so open to doing it. I think that this will become a much bigger thing this year, but it's going to take a video game title that we actually care about to pull off that plaster. I don't think it's going to happen with Foam Stars, for crying out loud. It sounds like
it's a weird one because there are some ways where people actually, without realizing it, already think AI is a great thing. I realize that there's become a meme on this podcast where I seem to be defending AI every single week, even though personally I think it's a terrible thing. But there are ways in which something similar to AI has been used for numerous years now, and people like procedural generation of levels in games. People who love procedural generation and roguelikes and stuff, all that's essentially doing is you giving them a set of stuff that it learns with. You say, here's what makes up a level in this game, and it learns it, and then you ask it to make one up off the top of its head, and it does that. That's essentially what AI does.
But it's not based off. It's not based off kind of like. It's not based off other people's work. Someone's created, I suppose, exactly. Isn't it? But
so there are ways of like neural learning or whatever the hell they call it, where it has positive benefits as long as the information you provide it with is self-contained within your own kind of data, and you're not saying pull from everything that's ever been created.
Yeah.
Like, because I've seen examples of like. I think in the new Unreal engine has like a thing where if you make a couple of trees, it can then use the trees you've created to generate a forest with slightly different looking trees. So you're not just copying and pasting the same trees or having to make like 500 different trees. You can make 5 and say, right, use what I've created to make trees similar to that and make a whole landscape with it. And then you can go in to those trees and move them about and mess about with them manually if you want, to save time more than anything, because no one's going to stand there and go, wait a minute, this 17th tree looks a bit odd.
A bit wonky.
It's more time saving stuff for development, and with development costs rising and more job losses happening, I appreciate the argument that AI can lead to fewer jobs in an artistic way, because obviously artists aren't getting to do the work, but in another sense I can see some potential benefits for it in terms of saving time and saving money for developers, designers who can spend their time on more important things than making 400 trees.
I mean, it's a sort of job, I think, that when I left university, I wanted to become a low polygon modeler. And I had a couple of job interviews with like a couple of companies like out in the arse end of past like sort of Swansea way. And they basically did a lot of the punch up work for like EA and stuff. So they're these companies that just deal with the grunt work of just creating small assets that aren't particularly beloved or aren't particularly experienced. They're not front and center. So basically, that's the industry that you're going to be undercutting. I think you're not going to be doing, you're not going to be doing anything in house, doing over artists in house. But I think the objections people have, and obviously people have talked at length about the objection they have with AI. We've not sort of said to a computer, this is what a tree is, make a tree. We basically taken other people's art and went, hey, just do this again. So the computer doesn't understand what it's doing. The computer is just copying what it's already done or amalgamating thousands of different examples. So that's the upsetting thing. I just think that the AI industry, as it is, nascent and burgeoning as it is, they've taken a pretty hefty shortcut, and the computer doesn't really know what it's doing. So in that, I'm not really afraid of AI taking over, because it's just a dumb box, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't use AI art, folks, for your video games, for your articles, anything. Story number 2, UK retailer Game is reportedly ending software trade-ins. This is according to Eurogamer, who reports that staff have been informed plans to cease the long-running service on February 16th. Game has not commented on the matter. The current trade-in policy states, Game accepts most consoles, games, and gaming accessories, and prepare to feel old, including retro consoles such as the PlayStation 2, GameCube, Game Boy, or older. The retro PlayStation 2. There are currently around 320 standalone game stores and concessions within Sports Direct and the House of Fraser. The Mike Ashley Super Retail Palace continues to grow. This is a weird one, because initially I thought, what is Game without trade-ins? And then I remembered the last time I went into a Game is basically just Toys R Us now. It's just gaming, toys, and ephemera, and a couple of video games. Pete, what's your take on this? Do they just have too many copies of Madden 2017? They're like, this is enough.
Just a succession of FIFA 16s, FIFA 2. Oh, good. Well, for me, when this invariably goes to S, if I invariably smash my career into the side of a mountain in a spectacular fireball,
we're all waiting.
We're all waiting with bated breath. We're all sick of you, Donaldson. My plan was always to just go and work in a computer shop. But the thing that really put me off was having an argument with someone who's come in with a copy of Madden 12 about why it's not worth 50 quid. It's a retro title. Yeah, but it's Madden 12. Nobody wants it. So the whole kind of, I love video games, but I hate bartering, and that's why I always get screwed over by every kind of sort of function, every sort of eBay kind of transaction I've ever made. I've always been screwed over by paying too much money. So I hate haggling and I hate all that stuff. This is great for me. As long as the game sticks around, I want to be able to sit there and sell a really unlovable bit of Minecraft tat to a mum. That's what I want.
It was weird because the last time I was in a game was to actually buy something and not to just kill time before another engagement was to buy my dad the Xbox Series X. Well, not that Christmas there, but the one before that. And I went in, and when I went up to the guy and asked him to get like a video game console for me, he looked shocked and affronted. He was like, you don't just want Pokemon cards? And I was like, well, I also want Pokemon cards, but like, can you go in the back?
Push the Pokemon cards to the back of the vent of the machine, please.
And it was like the presentation of the games was so haphazard. They were just all stacked up behind the front desk. Like, please don't ask for any of the games on the bottom of this pile because we can't take them out without the whole thing falling down. Game is in a weird spot. It looked like for a while they might actually go fully away, but now they seem, under the Ashley empire, they seem to be doing okay. Chris, pre-owned games trading in, was it ever a big thing for you? It used to be a big thing for me just because I simply didn't have the money to be buying all these new games.
Yeah, it was massive. I used to do back in the day the old £5 swaps down at the bars. the Scottish. There's a kind of infamous Scottish market for those not aware of it. Where there was a wee stall where they basically had all the new Mega Drive games in, and it was a £5 to swap like your game for the latest games, which is fantastic. So you just kind of constantly going in every week and getting the latest games. But Yeah, I've always loved getting pre-owned stuff, but the reality is that the industry's changing, and the hardly any the number of people buying physical games anyway is going down drastically, and you're getting consoles that are digital only. So the number of physical games being bought has dropped. So which means the number of physical games that are going to be lying about in game shelves, which could be jammed with even more Funko Pops, is rising. So Game have obviously decided we don't want all these copies of like 4-year-old Xbox One games still sitting here that have been sitting here gathering dust that nobody's buying, mainly because we're still charging 30 quid for them. So like, because games pre-owned prices are ridiculous anyway. So yeah, they've also just decided to cut their losses and say, look, we would rather fill the shelf space with more non-game stuff, because the name game should have been changed by now, because they're named after a product that fewer and fewer people buy in a physical sense. And like you say, it really has become a merchandise shop. Like HMV's the same. They brought back some HMVs, and I went on one recently, and like the whole main floor of this HMV in Edinburgh and Princess Street is Funko Pops, K-pop,
anime
albums,
stuff,
and anime stuff, and loads of kind of imported Japanese snacks. And it's like, I get it, because nobody's buying DVDs and nobody's buying CDs, but it's like,
to be fair, at least in the case of HMV, when I worked there briefly, vinyl was the thing that made all their money, and it's still that. Like, I went into HMV after the latest Taylor Swift re-release came out. I think it was 1989 or something like that, and they were wanting.
It's a long time ago.
No, they were wanting something like 40 quid for the standard LP, and I was like, no, thank you, because I mean, I don't play them. I just use them as like, I like having a big like version of the cover art or whatever. I was like, at this point, it's crazy. I heard on the radio this morning that out of all the records sold in the UK last year, 1 in 15 of them was a Taylor Swift record. So there's clearly something happening where people want physical media, but it's more attached to like the kind of culture and zeitgeist of her as an artist and this way of collecting stuff. But yeah, the game is weird because everyone I ever spoke to about game was like, oh yeah, they're total rip-off merchants, like they're always so expensive. You would go any kind of local shop, you get the games cheaper, but then all the local shops disappeared. Like my beloved game centre in the Paisley Centre, God rest it, was always, what, Chris, was a standard Xbox 360 game 45 quid in the UK, or was it 40 quid?
I think it was 40.
Okay, so if it was 40 quid in Game Centre had it for 32.99 all the time. So it was like, I would never ever go into a game, and I do think trading in games is important, especially for people that don't have loads of money. Because what I used to do was, my birthday's in the middle of the year, so I've got a good there's 6 months between a big period of getting cash to buy games. So I would have loads of games, beat them immediately, trade them in, get the new one, and this is how I developed into becoming able to review video games in like a day, because I can complete games so quickly. But I would never have ever played as many games as I have in my life if not for trading stuff in. So the only place on the high street you can still trade stuff in is CEX, I think. I'll never call it sex. I think that's
silly, isn't it?
That's just
CEX
daft.
will go to its grave without anybody ever calling it sex.
Yeah.
If anything, it would be keks, surely.
Keks.
It smells like keks in every CEX I've ever visited.
I always just look at the hard drives. I'm obsessed with like solo 2.5 millimeter centimeter hard drives that are just sort of like just in the like plastic kind of like resin cases, and I'm like, what's on that? What am I going to run an undelete program on and find? I mean, wow.
For me, the HMV journey for me every time I go is I go to the 4K DVD bit, I pick one up and it says $26.99. I say, is it? I put it back in the shelf and leave. Yeah. That's my HMV journey.
It's a time killing kind of box, isn't it? It's just like a crash for old duffers like me. I think with their game, it was always if I'm building a PC and something I've not got the right power supply, I'll go in on the off chance they've got that section with the PC peripheral kind of thing. You'll occasionally have like components from PCs that are like 20 quid more expensive, but I need it now. I'm impatient. I can't be asked to wait for one to be sent. Thing. And there is something very lovely about actually walking into a shop and buying something and going out and seeing it on the car seat, going, I just did something. I feel like I've achieved something.
Now that Maplin's shuffled off this mortal coil, you've got to go somewhere to go.
Maplin, I just
want to buy our step downs.
Yes. Or disco lights. I just want to buy some disco lights.
So funnily enough, that whole conversation actually relieved me on my flight back, because I flew back with American Airlines, and the seat back power was obviously configured to whatever American electricity they have. So plugging in my Steam Deck, even though it had a 3-prong like a UK plug, it wasn't working. But as soon as I put it into an American adapter and plugged it in, there we go. So
you're welcome.
The VGC podcast is here to educate you. I'm going to put out a call to action here. If you have previously worked in a game, and I know people who listen to this podcast, there's people living in this house at this very moment that have previously worked in game and have some horror stories, send them to podcast@videogameschronicle.com. I briefly worked in game retail when I did my work experience at Game Center, and the highlight of that experience was selling someone. You might remember this, Chris. There was a deluxe edition of Dead Rising 2 that came with like a pen that was shaped like the Z, like the injection thing.
Right.
I sold him the game and forgot to put the contents in the empty box, so he just wandered away with the empty box, no disc, no manual, no deluxe edition contents. And after that, I was like, would you not feel it? Would you not feel that this is like an empty cardboard box? It's like, I can't wait to go up the road and play with this. So yes, game retail horror stories, please do send them over. Pete, you never work in a wee dodgy computer shop? You seem all over that.
I'm not. The only retail place I worked in was Peacocks, and we had a strange Swedish lady who used to manage us, who used to follow. Who's the piano man? Billy Joel. Used to follow Billy Joel around with a carrier bag full of lyrics, and she was convinced she'd written quite a lot of Billy Joel's music, but she hadn't. And then she was fired for stealing. So that's my only retail experience, and also a betting shop for about 5 years, which was a little spicier.
Yeah,
do you know, game is the only job interview I failed. The only time I
also failed an interview game. Look at us now.
Like a month or a bit earlier, I'd applied for the official Nintendo magazine job and was still waiting because those future guys, they love to drag their heels. So I'd assumed I wasn't getting it. So I went, well, I need to do something. So I went to Game and got like an interview with Game, and it was like the manager and the deputy manager, whatever. And they said, what games do you play? And I listed off some kind of console stuff. I think 360 just came out, so I talked about that. Like, do you play Warcraft? I'm like, no, it's not really my kind of thing. And he went, oh yeah, Warcraft, I'm whatever level. And the other guy's like, yeah, I'm this. And they spent 20 minutes talking to each other about Warcraft. And I was just sitting there going, right, brilliant. I'm like, did you sell many copies of Warcraft? That subscription thing that makes you no money. And then they asked a couple of more crappy questions. And then I got a letter from them saying, yeah, you didn't get the job. You didn't have enough experience in video games.
In Warcraft.
Like, and then like literally a week later, I was offered the official Nintendo magazine job. I'm like, my face is now in your shelves, you pricks.
Yeah,
I was quite happy about that.
I think about that a lot. I failed the game interview for the game on Union Street in Glasgow, and then worked in HMV for about 3 months, and then I was literally on the BBC. So I was like, I think things went okay.
All right.
After the break, we have stories about Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, everyone's favorite game, and a sad one about Rock Band. See you in a minute. And we are back. This was an exciting little bit of news that I had to read about 3 times when I got the email for it. 2K has announced a Top Spin reboot. There's a teaser trailer out now. They had some Australian people at the Australian Open, I presume, to play it. I don't know, that's speculation. But Chris, I love a tennis game. I'm all for Top Spin coming back.
I love a tennis game, but I think it's very rare that tennis games are ever good.
Yeah, I agree.
Top Spin has been hit or miss for me, which ironically is the whole point of tennis. And like obviously, Virtua Tennis was the daddy.
Yeah.
I liked a bit of Anna Kournikovas Smash Court Tennis on the PlayStation. Dabbled a wee bit with EA's Grand Slam Tennis on the Wii in the sequel. The sequel was the only one actually that had a really good roster. That's the weird thing about tennis games is that I don't know what the licensing agreement says there with tennis games, but you rarely, if ever, get all the best.
You get like Federer or Nadal. You get like one or the other. It's so strange because it's
even like Virtua Tennis, which was great. You had like one or two the best ones at the time, but then you had like Mark Philippoussis, which is also a great name for a cat cafe. Philippoussis. But it's weird. Like EA Grand Slam Tennis 2 was the only one I remember where, when it came out, everyone who was the top player at the time was in it.
Right.
So it's possible. So I'm curious to see how much money 2K is going to chuck at this and see who's actually in it, because are you going to have all the big names in it, or is it going to be the usual where you've got one or two and then just people ranked like 80 to make up the numbers?
It's weird because like I played there's AO Tennis, which has like been on the recent consoles, and it's been okay. I don't know what it is that's just like, did sports games just used to have better single player progression, or was it just because it was one of the only games I had, so I played it to death? Like I find myself, if it's not FIFA or EAFC, sorry, I find myself, I'll play a game like AO Tennis, I'll play one tournament, but I have no interest in going and like upgrading my character and going through the whole like single player progression. I feel like that was something that was more kind of prioritized back in the day. But I mean, a tennis game is essentially just Pong HD. So if they can get that right, then I'd be well up for it. Pete, do you ever miss the era in like the PlayStation 2 where every sport would get its own game? You'd get like Luge 05 and things like this,
and then some of them would all be sort of put together in like a California game style experience where it'd just be stuff like that, and you'd have hacky sack and stuff. I really love golf games. I really love tennis games. I really love snooker games. Even though I have no interest in any of those sports, but I just like having a crack at them. I think they're really fun. Yeah. So I think, why don't they go down? Wasn't there like there was a golf game where it was set, it wasn't real golf, you were set in like a stately home and you had to smash as many Ming vases as possible.
Oh, Dangerous Golfing.
Dangerous Golf,
from the old Burnout people made that.
Why don't we have like an extreme kind of like cartoonish version of tennis? That'd bring people in, wouldn't it?
Yes, it's like that. What's the name of that game, Chris? The VR game.
Dirty Tennis. Tennis.
It's the homage to the Sega one.
VR Smash.
Yeah.
Oh, CR Smash.
Yeah,
sorry.
CR Smash. That's like that's got a cool aesthetic, like something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad this is coming back. 2K are hit and miss with their sports output, but we shall see. We'll see if it's 40 love, if it's an ace, if it's juice,
That's very good.
if it's umpire, if it's Andy Murray. That's all I've got.
I'm just curious to see how the microtransactions are implemented, because how are you going to do a my faction with a tennis game?
I've got a gold Andy Murray.
I know, finally. Full of pushes fucking all night. It's going to be interesting to see how that works, because clearly they're going to make their money somehow, or whether they'll have season passes where they'll just put rappers in it for no reason.
Yeah.
So,
you can play as Lil Wayne.
I mean,
you can now play as him.
In their current golfing game, I think you can play as John Cena and Steph Curry and Michael Jordan. So they're very liberal with the licenses. So
that's what I'm expecting. The fact that it's Topspin and not Wimbledon 2K25, it suggests that they're going to be pretty loose with the licensing. I don't even, although it's coinciding with the announcement with the Australian Open, I don't even know if the Australian Open's going to be in it.
Maybe Aussie Open, the wrestling tag team, might be in it.
Oh, they'll put the Bushwhackers in it then.
Yeah, exactly.
God rest them.
Rest one of them.
Are they both dead? Are either of them dead?
One of them's definitely dead.
Last year at WrestleCon, they were both supposed to be appearing,
killed one
and we saw one of them. Well, going to WrestleCon did. One has been in ill health for like years, and one of the, I can't remember which one died and which one didn't die, but the one who didn't die basically said, "Oh, come on, mate, come and do the WrestleCon. We'll make a bit of money." And the guy just went, "Oh, I'm gonna die on the journey." So yeah, it was horrific.
Butch is dead.
I'm going to bet I can't remember. I'm going to bet Butch is the one who licked everyone's heads.
Yes, he licked all the kids and the fish.
What caused it. I was
if he'd eaten that fish instead of just licking it and flapping it around.
See, in my head, my childhood, I've always linked the Bushwhackers with the Chuckle Brothers. The Bushwhackers are like the Australian physical Chuckle Brothers.
But they kind of joined wrestling quite late in their careers. Or they sort of joined the WWF quite late in their careers when their reputation was as absolute murderous killing machines. And they joined and they just licked kids' faces and ate sardine sandwiches. Ugh.
Here's a story which I've just unlocked in my memory from after very many years. We were at a holiday camp, a caravan park. It must have been Haven. We're talking early 90s here, so I must have been 10, 11. And they had a wrestling night. So we're like, okay, we'll go and see this. There's 100 people in a crappy wee hut and a dodgy wrestling. Because I was properly into my WWF at the time, so let's go and see. And it was all just kind of local, no people you had no idea who they were.
Any fake Undertakers? Any fake?
Nobody fake, oddly. But then at the end for the main event, they played the Ultimate Warrior's music.
Right.
And for a split second, as a young boy, you think, is the Ultimate Warrior coming out? Clearly, because everyone knows you do Madison Square Garden, you do the Sky Dome, and then you do Butland Scarborough. And instead of the Ultimate Warrior, out came the Chuckle Brothers, the actual Chuckle Brothers.
That's way better.
And performing in tag team wrestling, and obviously they didn't take many bumps. This was pre-tables, but part of me was still kind of, even as a young boy, felt slightly cheated. Going, the Chuckle Brothers aren't professional athletes.
No.
If anything, they're haphazard at best when it comes to health and safety.
Yeah.
So
Any of the Chuckle Hounds? Did they bring their Chuckle Hound costumes?
They did not, unfortunately. They didn't even bring a ladder, which I would have thought would be the main gimmick.
Yeah,
not even though this was pre-ladder matches, the boys are handy with a ladder. You would have thought they would have brought it, but no, apparently not. But I totally forgot that and just remembered now that I've seen the Chuckle Brothers in tag team action.
I would just like to point out before someone emails this podcast threateningly, the Bushwhackers were from New Zealand, not Australia. So
were they?
Yeah. They were from New Zealand. God rest them. Just God rest one of them currently at the time of recording.
Don't rest one of them. Yes.
Why does the existing Chuckle Brother and the existing Bushwhacker team up?
It's like when Heidenreich was with Road Warrior Animal after Hawk carked it. It was like the new Road Warriors.
Wait a minute,
the Chuckle Whackers.
You know for a fact that there are more than 2 Chuckle Brothers. There's like 5 of them, isn't there?
Yeah,
I think one of them was quite old and married quite a young woman. Not illegally so, but the image of a very old Chuckle Brother marrying quite a young woman was
there's
quite
more than 2 Hemsworths, is there not? But people only remember 2.
Yeah, like the Baldwins.
Well, famously, the older Chuckle Brothers, Paul Chuckle shot someone dead on set. The older Chuckle Brothers guy was called
accidentally.
Yeah, allegedly was called No Slacking in the show, and his entire gimmick was the Chuckle Brothers would be fanning about, and he'd come in and go, "No slacking," and that was it.
Damn,
comedy. 200 episodes, 40 series. That's all you need. Oh. Anyway, story number God knows. Rock Band 4's weekly DLC support is ending after 8 years. Since the franchise debut, the studio has added almost 3,000 songs to Rock Band as DLC. Dan Sussman, who works over at Epic, said, "Many of you reading this own a chunk of this content, and we remain committed to protecting that investment. To be very clear, you can play the songs you own within Rock Band 4 for as long as you like." That will come. I bet you that quote comes back to bite then in like 15 years or something like that.
There's no chance. There is no chance.
Well, the game's last weekly DLC will arrive on January 25th. All other live services will continue as normal, including Rival Seasons, online play, and everything else. Since being acquired by Epic in 2021, Harmonix has been focused on Fortnite Festival. Really depressing part of this statement where they're like, if you're a fan of rhythm games, Fortnite Festival is the place to be. So last bit of DLC for Rockman 4, a game that they supported way longer than I expected them to, because Rockman 4 was a bit of a commercial failure when there was like a slight reboot of the plastic guitar genre. I love Rockman 4. I think it's the best rhythm game ever, just purely based on like the amount of stuff you can get there. If you exported your old games before that offer expired, you can have every single song from all of the rock bands bar the Beatles in Rock Band 4. But yeah, Chris, what do you think about this? This made me a bit sad because I mean, surely Fortnite makes enough money where they can just sequester a little team on Rock Band for the foreseeable.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, it was coming long before it's actually happened. Like you say, I'm stunned they've continued to support it for this long, and so like fair play to them. But it can't be making them a lot of money. There must be a tiny number of people who are still playing Rock Band, and the costs it must be to license this music can't be kind of making up for it. So it's a shame, but if the promise is there that you'll be able to continue playing the songs you own, then we'll see. And am I right in thinking that the DLC is basically the last DLC, but will the store not still be open for a while?
Oh yeah,
presumably.
I think it's just the last DLC release, like all the.
I didn't know more songs. I mean, there can't be many more songs left.
That's the thing. Like, what did they end
so many
with?
Songs in the world.
Like, because if you name a big finale song, it's already in the game. Like, I think American Pie was the last song in Rock Band 3, which is the one that you'd think is like, okay, here's a good one to finish with. Like, I'm trying to think like what could they even do it with? It's weird because Rock Band 4 DLC. And this is kind of a factor of the game having already released so much of all music. They kind of pivoted to pop in the last couple of years, which is smart. I mean, get people involved, and it's like a good kind of change up. My greatest regret is they never ever really added any musical theater music, and that makes me so sad because as a massive theater nerd, I would love to be able to play the entirety of Les Mis with like a full band. But yeah, it's a sad situation and kind of paints a sad picture as to. I bet you PDP are thrilled. A couple of weeks ago, we did that story about them announcing a new guitar for Rock Band, and Epic's immediately like, "We're not putting any more DLC out." By the way, Pete, is this a natural conclusion? Is this a music licensing nightmare, or is it just let's get people focused on the Fortnite festival thing?
Yeah, I imagine they sort of. It must be quite charming as a developer to sort of wake up in the morning, drag an MP3 from one folder to another, and then say, "I've created DLC." It's like such a simple process, and I imagine working out the drums and the the mastering and stuff, and where all the little kind of icons go, I suppose is a bit of a job, but I imagine that's done by computers nowadays anyway. So yeah, this was always going to happen, but I just think that surely you paid for a license for a certain amount of time, and surely the upkeep of a store that just that just serves up this content can't be spent costing much money. So that'll run, won't it, until the natural end of life with the license that they've agreed with the record company.
It's a shame there's no kind of open source equivalent available on PC.
I know, right? Yeah, we never talk about that. We never talk about that one.
I wasn't going to bring it up this week, but if you are interested in a Rock Band like experience with every available song that you could possibly want, then I would just say Google Clone Hero. Use the code Jordan Mitloff at checkout.
Jordan Mitloff, Clone Hero.
Google Clone Hero, then Google the Digital Millennium.
Can we talk about that new Nintendo SD card thing that you pop in?
Move on.
Come on.
Nothing to do with me. They only just added Goodbye Yellow Brick Road to Rock Band.
I was looking through the list of songs earlier. I had ideas in my head as to what they could add as a final song, but like you say, they're all in it. I thought Welcome to the Black Parade would have been a good.
It's been in it for absolutely ages.
But it's been in it forever, so.
Yeah.
2010 they added it. I'm only 14 years out.
Yeah.
That's quite a good. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is quite a good theme. The wrestler Effie used it as a walk-on tune, and I think it's one of the best.
That's someone that is not looking to be signed by the WWE because
nope, not gonna translate. Not gonna translate. I think he might have stopped doing it. In fact, so even on the
end it with Candle in the Wind.
Yeah, the Diana version, but
just one. Just the final brum. Yeah. It says your candle burned out long before your legend ever will.
Yeah,
and that sums up Rock Band.
Goodbye, Rock Band 4.
Get Weird Al to write a parody.
Yeah, we'll get on that. I thought Andy would give us like 2 weeks off to go and to author a completely unauthorized parody.
Go to Jamaica to write it. do like a Happy Monday, just give you a lot of drugs and send you to Jamaica or wherever it was that they did their album.
They should give us a load of drugs. I agree. I asked on Twitter for people's favourite music game songs of all time, and a lot of people really showing their arse here with all these very difficult songs to play, but we have the Metal or Cliffs of Dover on Guitar Hero 3. I remember the Metal specifically because I used to be accused of looking like Jack Black, so that really haunted me for quite some time. Jason at Rocksteady says Lay Down by Priestess and Guitar Hero 3. Whenever I see the ratty old arcade version out, I always have a go on that song. That's the perfect way to describe the Guitar Hero arcade machines that are proliferating in the UK. They are ratty. The guitars are weirdly heavy, so you don't lift them up and clatter somebody with
guitars
them.
are too heavy. It's comical.
Yeah.
They've got that rubberized coating that's starting to turn back into a dinosaur. It's not leaking on your hands.
Yeah. Oh, Anyway You Want by Journey, Glitter That Got Left Behind. That's
nice.
Actually one thing. A few songs were very strangely not part of the old export offer, and it must just be money reasons. You've probably both heard the story about when Bryan Danielson signed back with AEW and Tony Khan went to Europe and they were like, oh, can we get the Final Countdown? And apparently it was like $500,000 for one use of the Final Countdown. So, but yes, Rockband 4, we hardly knew ye. We're getting on for time, so let us talk about reviews this week. Chris, you just published a review a minute ago, is that true?
2 minutes ago, yeah. And it went very smoothly. Thanks,
Chris just started crying on the video halfway through.
Very seamlessly put up a review of Another Code, Recollection, or Recollection, depending on how you want to pronounce it, for the Nintendo Switch series of consoles. It's surprisingly good. I don't know how familiar you are with the source material.
Pretend I have never heard of this game.
Well, back in the early days of the DS, there was a game called Another Code, Two Memories, which was renamed Trace Memory in America.
It was huge, wasn't it? It was a
and
real banger. Everyone was
very
excited about it.
It was one of the first kind of proper adventure games when the DS came out, and it was very touchscreen heavy and had loads of kind of clever puzzles. There's a bit where you had to kind of get an etching of something and you didn't know how to do it, and what you had to actually do was close the DS screen over.
Nice.
And which kind of made a stamp when you opened the screen up again. That was you'd got it. So there's loads of clever puzzles like that. They then made a sequel for the Wii called Another Code R. Some really pretentious title like A Journey into Lost Memories or something. And that only came out in Europe. That didn't come out in America. And that was excellent. That was also a really good game. And then Sing, who was the developer that made them, went bankrupt like 14 years ago, and we've heard nothing from them ever since. And now all of a sudden they brought both those games back, but it's a proper remake. These aren't remasters. This is a Resi 2 remake style situation where the story is the same, but the games are otherwise completely different. So the DS one was like a top-down point and click where you use the touchscreen, and the Wii one was point and click as well, first person point and click bits and a weird kind of side scrolling bit where you travel. Now they're proper like third person adventure games, like over the shoulder. All the puzzles have been completely replaced, so the one where you close over the DS there's all the puzzles are totally different. It's got voice acting now. The dialogue's been changed a bit. And both games have been basically joined together into one big long adventure now. So it's not like it doesn't come up at the start and say which one do you want to play. You start with the first one and it goes on to the second one as one big long adventure, and it takes like 15 to 20 hours. It's a decent kind of length. And the other great thing which I like, which I think some people will appreciate, is got like really good like assistant like aids in it because it's still kind of a point and click at heart. You'll get some people expecting like an adventure game and getting stuck quite quickly. And it's got two different aids. There's one which is like hints appear at the top of the screen, and you can kind of page through them, and they get more and more obvious as you go along. So the first time it'll say like, maybe you should try going into this room and looking around. And if you still don't know what you're doing, you move on and say, yeah, over there there's a safe. You need to figure out what's going on there, and you're still going boo. And it says okay, and then it says, yeah, the safe, the numbers are related to something that's basically over there, and you're like, and then you move again, it says put in 14, 12, 8 in the safe. It can basically give you the whole walkthrough if you want. And then there's another one where you can put like a compass in which points you to your next destination, or you can turn it all off and just wander around. So it's good in that way. Like it can be as handholdy or as kind of like pushing you away and make it proper old school point and click as you want. I really liked it. I liked it so much more than I was expecting. I always thought the originals were quite fiddly. These kind of handle it a hell of a lot better. So by the end of it, I was like, that was really good. The only problem is there's not much replay value. So once you get to the end, that's it. That's the end. There's no new game plus or anything like that.
No horde mode.
No horde mode. Annoyingly, that's it. That's the story. You get the credits. You go, oh. And then that's it. Throw it in the bin, straight and delete. But yeah, no, it's excellent. I'm really pleasantly surprised by it, and anyone who's into their adventure games should give it a whirl, but not before reading the carefully crafted review on VGC, of course.
Skip to the score.
4 is the score. Just in case you're massively lazy.
It's a VGC review, of course. The score is a 4. That comes unless it's a Sony game such as The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which I reviewed.
Got a 3.
Yeah, I got a 3. It was too much. You spent too much time in a cafe. It was terrible. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is a £10 upgrade on The Last of Us Part 2. It's got some visual bells and whistles. It has no return, which is like a roguelike mode. You go through levels from the game. Sidebar, I did an interview with Matthew Gallant, the director of The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and he made a good point. He was like, we spend so much time on these levels, like ridiculous amounts of time and money and effort on these levels for you to go through them once and only look at one part of it, and all of this art and all this money is just being left. So we're like, why don't we just like use them again for this no return mode? And I was like, that's actually, I often think about that when I'm walking through a level like this tableau that's set up. Say you're walking through an abandoned house. Someone was worried about that for like 2 weeks. That dominated their life. Like they were obsessed with that, and I'm just walking past it like, oh cool, right, next thing, next big moment. So yeah,
no. Sounds like a gallant effort.
Yeah, it was a gallant effort.
A Michael Gallant effort.
Yeah. I'll be sure to tweet him that straight after this podcast. But Matthew, listen to this.
I promise she's never heard that before. I promise she's never heard that.
But yeah, the no return mode is cool. It gives you a good excuse to play through use the game's combat and stealth systems, which are really good, but I feel like get pushed to the side quite a lot because that game is so story heavy. It's not really the thing you focus on. Also, my favorite part of it is the lost levels. So they basically dropped some pre-alpha levels into the game and then commentated and annotated them so you can just wander through them. And they're like, oh, we cut this bit because it was shit and we found a better way to do this. And it's like super, super interesting for any nerds that want to know how the sausage gets made. Interview on the site, review on the site. It's £10. It's well worth your £10 if you want to play through The Last of Us Part 2 in the best possible light. I don't know why people have been acting like Sony wants £200 off you for this. Like there has been £10 cross-generational upgrades since the day dot. Like, I understand that in light of The Last of Us Part 1, which was a £70 remake, I feel like those two have been conflated in a lot of people's minds, but I think people will be happy with what comes next from Naughty Dog. I asked them in the interview, but they were very obviously not just going to be like, oh, well, glad you asked. Our next game is...
No one's asked us yet.
We do use AI, actually. Thanks for asking.
We actually completely remade the second game exclusively using AI. It's fantastic. But yes, review on the site.
Did you know that the Lost Levels bit was taken from a game called Doki Doki Panic?
Oh, is that because it was called Mario 2 The Lost Level? Is that actually true? Are you making a joke here? I can't tell.
It's only like it's like the most commonly known trivia that people think they're being clever when they say. But anytime you mention Mario 2, they always go, did you know the actual Mario 2, known as The Lost Levels, is based on a game called Doki Doki Panic? And we all know. So I was being clever by attributing that to Last of Us 2's Lost Level section. I forgot you're a fetus, and therefore it's lost on you.
Doki Doki is onomatopoeic for like a love, like a heart, like a heart going Doki Doki Doki.
Correct.
Correct.
So heart panic just sounds way worse.
I thought it was just the sound of Mario having a chug. We have a lot of we can't say what, but we have a lot of reviews in the pipeline for the rest of this month.
So there's another interesting one next week, and I'm not sure if I can say where I'm playing or not, so I'm taking no risks.
There's 2 interesting ones next week.
Ace Attorney.
But you will need to be as patient as a dragon to find out what the other one is.
Dragon Quest remake.
Yeah, Dragon Quest remake. Okay, let's get out of here. Oh, in fact, no, this is my favourite part of the show. Pete, what inscrutable game have you been playing this week? What?
Oh God, I've not played a single bloody thing.
I've
still not Don't worry, guys. I've still not finished Cruiser Corps, so I'll be talking about that for the rest of the run.
How many times has this cruise had to park to get petrol in it? That corpse is maggots by now.
I'm just doing laps of the ship, going nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. One of those hidden puzzle games. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Lure of the Temptress. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of. What was those weird Russian point and clicks? Big Red Adventure? No,
there was KGB.
KGB. KGB and Compromat or something, wasn't it? One of them had in full motion video from Donald Sutherland, who basically just turned up and went, "You have earned your vodka so far, Max." It was awful, absolutely awful.
What about Flight of the Amazon Queen?
Flight of the Amazon Queen. It was a crappy version of like Indiana Jones crossed with Monkey Island, wasn't it? Really, I suppose. Yeah.
The glory
Fantastic.
days.
The glory days, Jordan. The glory days.
Yep. Well, look forward to
look at his wee face.
Look forward
Legend of Creandia.
I know it well.
Quest for glory.
Look forward to more of this
Quest
chat.
Fours.
What about Little Big Adventure before Little Big Planet?
Little Big Adventure, yes. Twinson's Odyssey. I think that's coming back. I think Little Big Adventure's coming back. Have you got
I think
tablets?
I'm going to take 200 of these Tylenol that I got from America.
Every time someone mentions a point and click adventure,
he pops one.
American,
kill him.
American painkillers. My God, I woke up with a bit of a toothache on one of the mornings of the Smite World Championship. So I Uber Eats painkillers from the 7-Eleven. Took 3 of them, went back to sleep, and I was like, I might never wake up because these are hitting. I was hoping I'd get some of those tampered with Tylenol to really send me over the edge. But
Pete, I'm going to go niche here before we finish.
Oh God,
Amiga point and click, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember? I'll never play the demo of this. Nippon Safes.
Yes, Nippon Safes Inc.
Oh, there we go. He passes the test.
I do.
He passes the test.
Wasn't Bonanza Brothers Inc. as well? Wasn't that an Inc? I'm trying to think games with Inc. at the end. I don't know why incorporated businesses were so big in the 90s.
Here's one for the kids to go on YouTube and research. Level 6 in Bonanza Brothers features the Mega Drive version features a museum in it, an art gallery, and all the art is taken from cover art from other Mega Drive games.
Nice. I like that a lot.
All the kids can go and check that out and look at all the artwork and not realise what the games are because they don't know.
I'm really sorry to say this, listeners, after that previous conversation, but I'm also away next week, so it will just be this again next week.
Don't worry, guys. I've prepared a few choice reviews of an Amazon step-down motor for you. It's basically on the actual synopsis of the product that you're selling for. It's only like 20 quid. This step-down motor, step-down converter PSU. It basically says it does make a loud buzzing sound. That means it's working, right? And then loads of people in the comments have said it does a great job, and I was concerned about the buzzing sound mentioned in the product details, but I've yet to hear the device do that. And then edit 2 weeks in the converter start making a loud buzzing sound. I'm taking it back. Just these loud buzzy converters that's upsetting everyone. It was burning and smoking after 1 minute. Do not use. Send it back.
Well, I got a new RGB SCART cable for my PlayStation 1, so I'm sure we can do 20 minutes on that. It syncs on composite rather than sync on Luma, so that's particularly exciting. Yeah. So we can talk about that for a bit.
If you've made it this far, go and leave a review. What has he got now?
The Beast Within.
The Beast Within.
Gabrielle Knight 2, The Beast
my
Within.
Nickname.
Big box PC games look nice, man.
I love the days of the early FMV point and clicks like Phantasmagoria and all that, which is just
they're so expensive. Box games now. I should have kept them.
Don't start talking about Phantasmagoria. Hamish Black, friend of the show, every time he gets a drink in him, starts talking about Phantasmagoria 2, A Puzzle of Flesh.
Game, son. What a game.
Anyone that
Puzzle of Flesh.
Anyone
8
that
CDs. Brilliant.
God.
Oh, fantastic.
Leave a review for the podcast on any of your preferred platforms. Send me a screenshot on Twitter at Jordan Midler, and I'll send some random codes. I've been giving people some real shite, so you want to be part of that, come along and do that. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok. VGC on YouTube, VGC_news on TikTok. If you want some gaming apparel, Gambit Gaming, use the code VGC for a discount. Sadly, I won't be here next week. I'm heading off as part of the gaming cabal that I am to the west coast of America. I should actually be able to, I think can I talk about that? God knows, probably not. But we've been so subtle about what we're working on, I might as well just tease it. So if you see me out there, say hello. It's nothing to do with Halo. Relax. Everyone chill. It's Halo 7. Thanks to Grant Kirkhope for the VGC podcast theme. That good man. There's still no new Banjo-Kazooie. I'm sorry. Grant texts me every night and says there's still no Banjo-Kazooie. Comments, questions, and concerns to the podcast at videogameschronicle.com. Follow Pete at Pete Donaldson. Chris at Scully1888. Sidebar, Pete. Last week, when you did this part of the outro, you said follow Chris at 1888. Completely disrespecting Celtic Football Club. Sorry.
Yeah, that's poor from me, to be quite frank.
Ridiculous.
That's poor from me.
Follow Chris at Scully1888. Me at Jordan Midler. Say goodbye, Pete.
Goodbye, Pete.
Say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris.
We will see you next week.